I just wanted to start by saying a few words about some historic females that I really respect, not only to celebrate their achievement, but also to recognise their courage, especially the kind that grows quietly and under pressure, and in places that history has too often overlooked. Here in Wrexham, we're shaped by a powerful industrial and social history, and with that history lies one of the most devastating events ever to affect our community, the Gresford disaster in 1934, where 266 men and boys lost their lives underground. What is often less said, and what feels especially important to say, is that the story of Gresford is also a story of women. It's a story of women who, in the face of unimaginable loss, refused to be silenced. Women who challenged authority long before it was safe to do so. And women whose determination reshaped memory, justice and community responsibility. One of those women was Emily Capper. Emily lost her son in the disaster, and when the decision was taken to seal the mine, leaving the vast majority of men entombed forever, she did something extraordinary for a working class woman in the 1930s. She wrote, she challenged and she protested. She confronted the mine owners, officials and government departments. She demanded dignity for the dead and accountability from the powerful. Emily Capper had no official platform, no institutional backing and no expectation that her voice would be welcomed. But she understood something fundamental, that justice does not need to begin with permission. Her letters now sit in the National Archives, not simply as records of grief, but as evidence of resistance, moral clarity and leadership under pressure. She reminds us that courage often arrives not as confidence, but as a necessity. Emily was not alone. The widows of Gresford, many of them young, many left with large families and little financial security, carried the long aftermath of this disaster. They became breadwinners, caregivers, organisers and guardians of memory in an era with minimal welfare support and few rights for women. Their leadership was not ceremonial, it was practical, relentless and sustaining. They kept families together, they kept stories alive and they kept dignity intact. Their contribution reminds us that leadership is not always visible, but it is always consequential. That legacy of women's leadership didn't end in 1934. Ruby McBurney, who lost her father in the disaster when she was just 3 years old, spent decades ensuring that Gresford and every single one of its victims would not be forgotten. Through patient, determined campaigning, Ruby helped secure the permanent inscription of the 266 names on the Gresford Memorial. She co-founded the Friends of Gresford Colliery Disaster Memorial, organised remembrance services and educated new generations about what happened and why it still matters. She understood that remembrance is not passive. It requires effort, it requires organisation and it requires moral persistence. Ruby's work reminds us that memory itself is a form of justice and that women have too often been its primary custodians. So what does this mean for me and what does this mean for our university? It matters today, it matters for us as a university community because universities do not exist apart from place. We are anchored in it. Wrexham University, its mission to widen opportunity, to serve our communities and to educate for impact sits squarely within this tradition of women who challenged the limits imposed upon them. The women of Gresford did not wait for systems to change before acting. They acted, and systems eventually had to respond. Their spirit lives on every time a woman is the first in her family to attend university, or a student balances study with care responsibilities, or a researcher asks difficult questions of power. So, Gresford disaster, for me, teaches us that leadership is not defined by title, or wealth, or status. It's defined by moral clarity, persistence, and a refusal to accept that injustice is inevitable. As Vice-Chancellor, I'm proud that Wrexham University stands in that tradition, educating not only for employment, but for courage, responsibility, and social good. So it's with great pleasure and honour that that I took time to reflect and to honour the women who became before us, not only with words, but with action worthy of legacy. Diolch yn fawr. Thank you.